Congratulations to Jim, and can't tell you how great it is to also have someone on our board that's an attorney. It's very awesome too. Kurt is our legal counsel. Tremendous value. It's my honor again to introduce our next inductee, Julian Gould. And this is the last time you all have to hear me speak at a little bit of length here, but thank you. We have, hundreds and hundreds of nominations, and we have a selection committee headed by Bill Ruber that meets and takes those hundreds of nominations and whittles them down to 20, 30 or so that the entire board votes on and results in the great class that we have here today. And during the selection committee meetings, each person on that committee has 5 minutes to just bring to our attention some teams and individual nominees that stand out to them. And typically it's, someone from the school system where you grew up, or maybe someone you competed against. But when Alan Veltiti went this year, who's from Nanuet, who's a little bit older than Julian, he just looked at all of us, and he just looked at all of us in disbelief. How could we miss this? How could we miss this nomination? How has it been? I don't know how long we've had Julian's nomination, and we're all like, we don't even know what you're talking about. He hadn't even said Julian's name yet. And then he went on to say Julian's name and share some of Julian's accomplishments with the entire committee. And then all of us were kind of in disbelief that this nomination had not come to our attention in years past. And needless to say, everybody voted him into that final group. And then everybody on the board, also seeing his accomplishments, voted him to be a class of 2026. So some of those accomplishments that everybody was so amazed with is Julian is mainly getting in for his lacrosse accomplishments, but he is an all-league, all-section, and all-county football player. He is a goalie. He was the first NIAC player to reach 1,000 saves. All-American lacrosse player, which is pretty much the highest individual honor that a lacrosse player can get. And then I think potentially, not because he told me, but one of the proudest things, he was the member of 3 NCAA championship final teams and was NCAA champion once, which to a certain extent is essentially the world championship of lacrosse. It's the college championship is the best players in the world. So it gets really hard to talk about Julian after his athletic accomplishments, like so many people before him. There's just so much to talk about that is beyond what he did on the playing field. And I think the thing that I'd like to briefly share is his role in running NIAC Youth Lacrosse, which is a youth league for people in the NIAC community. They helped co-found in 2014. And my first introduction as a parent to the world of parenting an athlete was when my daughter, when she was 6, enrolled in NIAC Youth Lax, and I'll never forget the first practice I went to, and the girls were on like a water break or something, and they were all giggling around, looking around, and Julian comes over and, "Why are you looking at them? Why are you looking at your parents? Look at me." And, he did it in a way that was totally appropriate for your 6. I know it sounds bad, but it was totally appropriate. I can tell you one thing. I thought, man, Julian is not playing games, number one. I was looking at him after he said that. But no, what immediately, or maybe not all of this came to my mind that second, but eventually it did, is that this is the person you want instilling the values of focus, discipline, determination, and accountability in your children, as well as lacrosse skills. So I think it's incredible what you've done in the NIAC community. And when I called Julian to let him know that he was voted into the class of 2026, he shared with me, he said, I honestly thought you were calling to tell me that Harper, my daughter, who only played lacrosse till she was 7, is now 10. Julian knew her name, how old she is. And as special as that is to me and my wife, my family, what's really amazing about Julian is that he has a relentless drive and relentless energy to make sure that if a young person in the Nyack community doesn't play lacrosse, that hey, it's just not their thing. You know, they're doing something else, whatever that is they're doing. But it's not because there is not a thriving youth league to serve the community that is supported by the community. That is not going to be the reason that someone doesn't play lacrosse in Nyack. And he is just such a humble individual. And so, in closing, I'd just like to say whether your lacrosse career ends at 7, like my daughter, or 7, well, maybe it's not over. Julian's still working on it. He is. It's not over to Julian. Or maybe it's over at 17, or maybe it's over at 67. It doesn't matter. If you had the pleasure to be on a team that Julian coached, you're going to be better equipped for that game of life, which Julian is most certainly playing and has most certainly succeeded and continues to succeed at. Julian Gould.
I guess the first thing that Russell didn't mention is we asked parents not to come to practices. But that's the first item. I don't know if anybody mentioned earlier, but Pete, thank you for this, asked us to pick our entry song. So that's Led Zeppelin, Kashmir. So I hope that connects the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s all together. And I thought to myself, what song would be the best song is what's the song that Pat and I were listening to on the bus to a football game. Pat Dorian and I played football together in high school, and it would certainly, for me, have been a Led Zeppelin song. So that's the connectivity point there. So I don't know if I see him at the table, but if I knew Danielle Castaldo was writing speeches for everybody, I would have submitted a request. The Castaldo family and the Gould family have battled for years on the lacrosse field, and it's been a great relationship between North Rockland and Nyack, although the speech would probably be a little bit too heavy on the positive side with North Rockland. So I don't know if I would have been able to use that particular one, but thank you for that. One of the things Greg had said is, I think you said maybe top 3 of the siblings. I am definitely 7 of 7 in my household. I have 5 daughters, 4 of them are here tonight. My daughter Kate just won the Ivy League championship for the regular season in lacrosse yesterday. Thank you. My daughter Ella, I'll go with my daughters first because they're all sitting in front of me. I don't know how, I must have paid a couple extra dollars for this table. But my daughter Ella, who's a senior at Nyack, is committed to play lacrosse at Michigan. She's also the salutatorian of Nyack High School. My daughter Abby, who's also on my wife's lacrosse team. My wife's the lacrosse coach at Nyack with a friend of ours, Catherine Perella. But my daughter Abby is a sophomore at Nyack, and she's going through her recruiting process right now, so we'll see what she decides. It'll be an exciting process this summer into the fall. My daughter Jane right here is probably the largest character in the family that we have, and she's an 8th grader. And finally my daughter Tess, who's actually probably going to be the largest of everybody in the group, is in 6th grade, right? Yeah, 6th grade, okay. I thought it was 6th grade. I guess I'd first, before I go into any other stories, like to thank Pete, like to thank Russell, the board, the directors, the nominating committee, the selection committee. I'd like to honor all the other honorees in the room, all the other people that have already spoken and will continue to speak. Also, in terms of past individuals, I finally got to meet, and he's sitting by himself with his arms crossed as if he owns the room, my friend Scott Finley in the corner. He is the legend of Nyack lacrosse, and the rest of us just came by and just played for fun. I'll go around the table here. Unlike the Dorias that have 25 tables, we just have one. But starting with my folks, and maybe a round of applause for my father for making this dinner, because he had a life-threatening incident that he was in the hospital for a month, about 3 months ago, so thank the Lord that he's here. My father probably has lost in his mind more than I actually know, and he's taught me everything I know. So it's a little bit of a complicated relationship because every time I try to do something, he says, I already taught you that. My mother, sitting right next to him, Laura Gould, is a famous field hockey and basketball player from Massachusetts with all the other individuals. So we'll leave them up there. In terms of lacrosse, I would probably say the only reason why I actually played lacrosse was, Aaron, can you stand up real quick? This is my brother Aaron, who's a Clarkstown police officer with Jeff Wanamaker, not retiring, because I think he's got a couple kids to send to college, so he's going to stick around for a little while longer. But my brother, my brother got me into lacrosse when I was a sixth grader, just like my daughter Tess. I literally wouldn't have even picked it up if it wasn't for him. And I would probably thank Whisker, my high school lacrosse coach, if he was here, for putting me on the varsity team as a freshman to get to play 2 seasons with my brother. And those are probably the 2 most memorable seasons of my personal life. He was an all-county lacrosse player. We both were all-county together, which was awesome, 2 years in a row. I ended up playing in college as well. So I think he's still playing lacrosse in men's leagues and winter leagues, playing basketball with the Police Officers Association, all sorts of different things. And then finally next to him is one of his 2 sons. He also has a daughter, but his son here is William, who's on the Nyack High School varsity lacrosse team. So we want to congratulate William for all of the future accolades that he has. I saw him on the sideline of the football team as well, holding I think a pink sheet, thinking about what the plays were that the team was running. So hopefully we hear his name in the next couple of years in terms of where he's going on the football field as well. I guess for me, one of the things would be less about the stories of the X's and the O's and did we win the game, did we lose the game. I think a lot of the experience was the people along the way. Like I already mentioned, Pat, we actually had a pretty legit street. And I think the Costello family said there was 13 miles. For us, it was 50 yards. Because my father was raised on Birchwood Avenue, my brother and I were raised on Birchwood Avenue in Upper Nyack, and we're raising our daughters on Birchwood Avenue Upper Nyack, so we haven't really been getting to move that recently. But the stories that I have are more along the lines of, and Coach Castellano, who's my football coach with Pat in high school, he gave me a call the other night and we were talking about some of the war stories, some of the things that we did along the way. But for me, it was sitting in his office watching film. I love that. I don't know why, but I absolutely love that. My father always said, strategy, show up prepared. So we would just watch film constantly. I felt like we knew exactly what the team was going to do every single second along the way. I loved doing that. I had a 1986 Buick Century, which was 2-tone color, because my father had a guy that only painted half of the car. That car, it turns out it fit 10 football players. I had no idea how it did that, but we would drive from the football field downtown. Literally, these guys were huge, and they would just roll out of the back seat of that car. So that was pretty awesome. And I don't know if anybody mentioned it, but the parties in high school, I see Pat's eyes flipping a little bit. No one mentioned the parties. The parties were awesome. You know, it was just a great time. And so, you know, that experience was really special to me along the way in terms of the people. The other greatest thing about going to Nyack is in middle school, I would say that's when I started playing lacrosse, but that's also when I met my wife, who's at the table in front of us. And as I think Russell mentioned, my wife was an All-American, you know, played in college, multi-time captain, led the team in assists, has tons of accolades. And for us as a family, nothing would really work particularly if it wasn't for her. And I think Greg also mentioned this, listen to your parents. In our house, it's listen to your mother. Right, that's a big thing. Obviously my in-laws are here, and it's pretty controversial actually because, and again, not to keep referencing Greg's speech, but my father-in-law was on that 1969 Clarkstown team. His last name is Gilroy, and I'm pretty sure if he had decided to stay in Rockland for his full high school experience, that he'd also be standing up here, you know, being inducted into the Hall of Fame. One of the things that my brother and I did when we were little kids, we come up with all these amazing little games. One was called one-on-one kickoffs, where we would just literally launch the ball to each other from 40 yards away and try within 10 yards to run past each other. So maybe later on today, I'll get Dale Lidecker and my father-in-law will do a one-on-one kickoff. with the two. I don't know, my father-in-law is a pretty formidable foe. And also, I would say I was married into a pretty dynamically athletic family. If you were a baseball player, I guess in the early 70s, my mother-in-law's brother, John Lateria, was an amazing baseball player for Clarkstown as well. And I think this is before Clarkstown split into North and South. So we had the Clarkstown team all together. I guess in closing, I could probably speak for another couple of minutes if anybody's still awake. There is a table back in the back, and I see Mike's face. One of the things that it's a couple refs, I think. So one of the things that happens is that during the games, the ref actually refs the game. Initially, when I started watching refs, I didn't know what they were doing. I was like, this is a terrible call. But the refs actually ref the game. It's something I've learned recently over the last couple of years. And they get a lot of disrespect during a game from the sidelines. I've never disrespected a ref in my entire life. So I just want to say we should give a round of applause to all the refs, because we don't have a lot of refs. And I was hoping Jim would be here too, I see Mike. Except there was that one ref who called off my touchdown against Suffern, homecoming. So other than him, all the refs deserve a round of applause. One of the other things that's nice about this event is looking around the room, I just see so many familiar faces. We have our athletic director, Joe Sigillo, who's been unwaveringly supportive of all of our endeavors with our Nyack Youth Lacrosse program, which is fantastic. He added flag football, which my niece is now playing flag football. He's been supportive of my daughters who also play tennis, so it's been fantastic. I see, this is so easy for me. I see my friend Pesner, who already gave his speech. I grew up buddies with his son, which was fantastic, also a great lacrosse player. Al coached my wife, so there's so much connectivity there. I see Shep, our high school basketball coach from the 90s, sitting next to him. I already mentioned the Wanamaker family. I used to walk up and down Wanamaker Lane. I grew up in a neighborhood with a gentleman named John Hess, who played lacrosse at Princeton, was a phenomenal player. Around the block from me was the Lewis brothers, who played at Lafayette and West Point, like my friend Scott. My neighbor growing up was Wells Crowther, who was so kind to me. Let's clap for Wells. Does everybody know Wells' story? And if you don't know Wells' story, just Google Wells Crowther ESPN, and you'll see his video. It's phenomenal. Wells was super kind to me. I'd see him walking down the hill with a soccer ball, which I wasn't so interested in soccer, but he would be walking down the hill with a soccer ball and see me in the yard with my stick, and he'd say, "Why don't you come to my house? I'll shoot on you." Which was just phenomenal. And then thinking about his story 25 years later, after September 11th, it is just amazing. One of the things that my wife and I always said to ourselves when we were trying to build a small little youth program in Nyack is, how do we get it back to the point where people are interested in something and are willing to commit the time to actually do it? So I think we're slowly getting there with our lacrosse program. We have multiple committed players on our team now that are playing in college. It was easy for us as kids, because when I was in middle school, the entire varsity team was playing lacrosse in college. They were either playing at a D1 school, or D2 school, or a D3 school, and it just made the community so excited, because you wanted to go to the games, you want to see the guys, guys and gals, like my wife and some of her friends. So I guess I would just say generally thank you. Thank you for everybody coming, and thank you I hope you enjoy the rest of the night, and good evening.